Howdy folks, I'm going to jump into the review for exam 2 for Math 120. So we're looking at chapter 7 stuff. So the first page of questions are all fairly straightforward as far as just solving the equation. So let's jump right in. Now on the left hand side we got a couple of expressions that have x in them, so we can combine those together. And remember, we don't have to use any properties to do that. We just combine as is. So this should give us 7x plus, minus 3, not plus. And on the other side, we have some parentheses, so we're going to have to distribute that 3 into there. So that'll give us a 3x minus 2 plus 11. So now we can do a little bit more combining on the right side. So negative 2 plus 11 better be a positive 9. And then we can do some subtracting. So now we would want to move our x's all into one side. So let's subtract 3x. That'll give us a 4x minus 3 equals 9. Let's add the 3. And so we'll get a 4x equals 12 divided by 4 for x equal to 3. Now, as far as checking your answer, remember you want to check it back in the original problem if you want to make sure you're doing it right or not. So again, checks are optional, but if you're not sure, definitely try to work those in. Now, for the second problem, we got some fractions in here. Now, the process we did before was we had to find the LCD first, and then we had to reconfigure our equation. Now, looking at our three denominators, we can kind of see that 12, all three of those will go into 12 nicely. Now, keep in mind that if we didn't have a fraction on the end here and it was just a whole number or an integer, we would just pretend that that had a denominator of 1. So all three pieces would still need to get a denominator. So be careful with those cases. So our LCD is 12, so I'm going to make all of our denominators into 12s. And make sure I put an equal sign in here. Now our last fraction is already at 12, so we don't have to do anything with the top. But on these other two, we will have to modify them. So in order to go from a 3 to a 12, we're going to have to multiply by 4. And on this one, we're going to have to multiply the top and bottom by 3. Now you can see I'm using parentheses, and that is important because we do want to end up distributing that into the parentheses. We want to distribute the 4 into the parentheses. But remember, once you get to this point and you've modified the tops correctly, we can do the following and wipe those all out. So now we have just a flat out equation that we can simplify down and solve. So let's distribute that 4 in. So that'll give us an 8x minus 4, a 3x plus 3 equals the 43. And now we can combine. So combine our minus 4 and positive 3 to get a negative 1. 8 and 3 is 11. And now we can add the 1. Whoops, I had a mistake up here. This should have been 43. And so when you add them, you get 44. And now we can divide. So x equals 4. Now keep in mind that you're not always going to get nice answers. Sometimes, even though you're doing all the steps correctly, you end up with a yucky fraction for an answer. It does happen. So just keep that in mind, especially on the My Math Lab portion, you might see that happening. So just be careful, trust your gut on those that you did it right. Now, the last part for this first page is looking at whether or not you have a conditional, an identity, or a contradiction. And it all boils down to trying to solve it. So try to solve it and see what happens, and you will get some special situations that will occur. So in this one here, be careful because we do have a negative 1 that we're going to have to distribute in. And over here, same thing, but since there's nothing really fancy going on inside, we can just treat this as a double negative and make it into a plus. So if we do that, we'll have our 3x, a minus 1 distributed in will give us a minus 2 plus the x plus 4x equals 7x minus the 2 plus x. So that gets rid of all of our parentheses, and now we can combine. So 3x and a 1x and a 4x gives you 8x. Still got the minus 2. And 7x and x is 8x minus 2. All right, so now some bells and whistles should be going off because you have exactly the same thing on both sides. When that happens, that is your identity. Now, in some cases, they will ask for the solution set. So remember, the solution set is just what numbers are going to work for this. And when it's an identity, the solution set is all real numbers. So all real numbers is the solution set. Now, what happens in the other cases? Well, when it's a conditional, you're only going to get one number. You know, like x equals 3 or something like that. Whatever the answer is, it's a singular answer when it's conditional. When it's a contradiction, there is no answer. And so the solution set is empty. So you can write the empty set just like that. There's nothing in between those curly braces, or some books will do it like that. So just keep that in mind. So, and this is more important for the My Math Lab portion. Okay, so let's stop there, and then we'll pick up the next page in the next video.